Uh, the question here is, you must be familiar with what, the discourse about tribe and how, the tribal society is heterogeneous in terms of their faiths, in terms of their economy, in terms of their sociocultural practices. So usually, if you see the cultural transformation or the socioeconomic problems associated with uh, the mainland society, it is, in most of the cases, it is uniform. The impact or any sort of policy comes, or any sort of change actually the government introduces, usually the impact we see actually it is, it affects, most of the uh, mainland population at a uniform scale. But when it comes to tribals, they are so diverse and their society is so heterogeneous. It is difficult to assess the impact, and it is difficult to anticipate the consequences of any sort of policy or programs in advance. So in this paper, actually, we'll discuss about the major tribes of central and southern India, and we'll discuss about the problem actually they are encountering. And gradually, we'll start with Andhra Pradesh. Mm, as many of us know, actually, Andhra Pradesh is also one of the major states with a kind of uh, significant tribal concentrated state. And if you see, altogether Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it composed of a large section of tribal population, and around 50 lakh tribals inhabit the various regions and district of these two states. And if you see, out of which approximately 50% are nomads. Nomads, you must be knowing, actually, those who are not settled tribals. Nomads usually those who are, go for shifting cultivation, those who frequently migrate from one place to another place. And almost half of the tribal population in this state, in these two states, are nomads. And if you see their habitat, it spreads from coastal and mountain strips of Bay of Bengal, starting from Srikakulam district to Khammam, and Godavari district to northeastwards, stretching to the Adilabad region. And if you see, on the basis of that geographical spread, tribal population here are identified on the basis of two groups. First, those who are residing across hilly areas, especially hilly areas of the Deccan Plateau, in the rivers of Godavari and Krishna. And the second group inhabits the extended areas between the rivers of Krishna and Godavari. And if you see, the state has around 33 tribes inhabiting eight districts, especially in eight districts. And out of these 33, around 12 are identified are primitive tribal group, PTGs, namely Bodo, Godoba, then Poroja, Chenchu, Dongriakon, then Gutop, Kodova, Konporoja, Kolam, Konda Reddy, and Konda Sabaraya, Kutia Kon, Paranga Poroja, and Thoti. And if you see, while studying tribe, you must keep in mind that when we discussed about a particular about a particular tribe residing in a particular state, that doesn't mean that their community do not spread over or across the boundary of that particular state. You take the example of Konda Reddys, they belong to Andhra, but then if you see, they also reside in some of the parts of Koraput, which belongs to Odisha. And so in case of Dongriakonda and on the others. And as you see, mm, you must be aware of the basis on which the primitive tribal groups are named and classified, and the defining criterias. You must be familiar with those criterias, like identified by the government of India. In the previous class, I'm sure actually you must have heard of those criterias, like the pre-agricultural level of technology, basically the mode of production, and the level of literacy, then the stagnant or discriminatory population, environment as their main source of food and shelter, and the habitat, and the environment as their property, or the property of the community, and especially the restrictions, usually no restrictions imposed when it comes to a particular tribal community. And if you see, the recent census, recent means it's almost actually, the 13 years old. We are yet to actually, conduct, go for the new census. The census 2011, if you see, in Andhra Pradesh, around 59 lakh, which is around 7% of state's total population, are scheduled tribes. And it is actually 6% of the total tribal population of India, which is not a small proportion. And if we see, mm, out of 35 tribes, or out of the total 33 tribes, uh, we can see actually, uh, numerical strength. If we see, Sugalis are the numerically largest group, representing about 41.4% of the state's population. And similarly, if you see the literacy among the tribals or scheduled tribes in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it actually experienced tremendous improvement if we compare the data between 1991 and 2011. The proportion, which was 17% in 1991, increased to 49% in 2011. But if you see the female literacy, still it is disappointing, and it is yet to cross uh, 40%. And the work participation rate, if you see, the the marginal the proportion of marginal workers is significant, which signifies that still the people in tribal areas, they are deprived of getting work opportunities. And the ongoing debate, if you see, on pluri activity, or the process of development of census towns, and the creation of employment opportunities in the semi-urban areas, still remain out of touch of the tribal community. And the religious composition, if you see, the tribals are mostly tribal communities, or tribal societies. Still, Hinduism is the major religion practiced by the tribals, and followed by Christianity and Islam. And if you see, the Hindus, they account 98.1% of the tribal population of the state, and Christian and Muslims, they compose 0.96 and 0.48% respectively. Chenchus are found either inside of the famous river Krishna, and there is a range forest on the southern side of Krishna River, and their majority concentration is in the districts of their primary nourishment coming from forest produce such as roots, fruits, honey, and small game. And for hunting small, game, they utilize bow and arrow. And the famous anthropologist Christopher Hammondorff traces the Chenchu's historical origin to the Stone Age tribes, whose basic implements were made of crude stone, something that the Chenchus depend upon even today. However, with the coming of the village settlement, many Chenchus have embraced the village life and culture. And if you read actually Anthony Giddens' book, actually how the society transformed, especially the mode of production, actually how it transformed. If you see it, we in general, actually, the society transformed from a very primitive one to pastoral one, agricultural one, pastoral one. Then subsequently, we reached at a kind of society where actually the modern mode of production or capitalist mode of production. Before that, we had also semi-feudal mode of production. But then, if you see how actually it transformed, if you see the first initially, the tribals, the mode of production was basically shifting cultivation. They were actually shifting from one place to another place, and wherever actually they go, actually they clean a particular forest area, and they burn the wild plants, and they make that particular uncultivable land, they convert the uncultivable land to cultivable land by forest burning, and they settle there for some time, or till the fertility level of that particular patch of land declines. And along with the shifting cultivation, they also uh, secure their livelihood by hunting and gathering of forest resources. But as Hamendorf said, the Chenchus actually, as of course, many of the tribal communities, they were initially actually uh, securing their livelihood through the shifting cultivation, but gradually they became they settled themselves in particular villages, and the concept of village settlements in tribal societies gradually emerged. And if you see from the beginning, as we said, till the date or till today, nearly half of the tribal population still they are nomads. They are not stable, and their settlement is not permanent. But Chenchus, uh, most of the Chenchus actually, they have embraced the village life and culture. And if you see their uh, uh, genealogy, the Chenchus have been identified as belonging to the Vedoid racial stock, a term derived from the Vedas, a primitive tribe of Sri Lanka, and they are identified as being of short, slender stature, dark skin, wavy or curly hair, broad face, flat nose. These all physical features. If you read Hammondorff's book, actually it is described there. And uh, if you see the settlement pattern, actually, if you see the Chenchus, even though they still actually a significant proportion, uh, I mean, proportion of Chenchu tribals, they are still, they are following nomadic lifestyle. But then wherever actually they embraced or they are settled, they actually uh, mm, reside in a kind of semi-permanent thatched huts, conical in shape with low entrance, and chenchus usually they live in the settlement of 2 to 15 houses, and each house is occupied by individual families. And if you see, these settlements are mostly found in hill slopes or high ridges to afford a vantage point in order to spot incoming enemies, as well as they always stay away from the water's sources to keep away from wild animals. Because if you read also Malinowski's work, actually, how actually the settlements are constructed, you will see actually usually the warfare and the rivalry or the enmity between the tribal communities uh, was very much prominent and very much existing, and that was also another way of surviving. The tribal societies, if you see, when Malinowski discussed about the Kula ring, he discussed about how in his absolute functionalism, he discussed about how the tribal societies, they bring in some cultural practices to make or to develop friendship with another tribal community, integrate different tribal communities, and enhance the interdependency among them. And the reason was because many of the tribal communities, they were actually waging warfare, they're looting from another settlement for their survival. And that was the reason actually Chenchus, actually they always choose uh, the hill slopes or high ridges to afford a vantage point, because if they altitude, they can identify or they can spot the incoming enemies. And that was the reason actually they constructed for their house in those areas. And uh, the settlement pattern also differ based on the weather with the uh, thatched huts. For example, if you take in summer, actually the thatched roof of the house will be different. They will repair the house using different husks. But when it comes to rainy season, they will use different husks. So based on the weather, actually they go for renovation and construction of their houses. And the Chenchu social organization is made up of bans with restrictions on eating or killing the totem. Totem basically is a symbolic, representation of, in modern societies we call it as god. But then in tribal societies, they actually worship totem. The totem can be a living or a non-living entity. Sometimes the totem can be a cow, sometimes the totem can be a tiger, sometimes the totem can be a tree, sometimes the totem can be a piece of stone. And the Chenchu, if you see, the totem, they have restrictions on eating or killing the totem. For example, we must know actually. Many of us are familiar with, especially in Hindu society, we have something called Gotra. And if you see, and most of the occasions you must have come across some snakes, some tortoise. And once it becomes your totem, you cannot kill or eat the totem. And Chenchu social organization is made up of that belief system, and they were not actually eating or killing the totem. And the nuclear family is the primary grouping, with the husband and wife having equal rights and equal status. As you know, when it comes to gender equality, the debate on gender equality, most of the people actually they question about when it comes to exploitation and inequality. We most often actually discuss about how tribals are exploited by the non-tribals. But when it comes to debate on gender challenges or gender-based discrimination, it is far well established that tribal society, the gender gap between men and women, it is uh, bare minimum. Actually, it is the lowest if we compare the gender gap between male and female in tribal societies. And just a minute. Am I audible to everyone? Anyone can respond actually. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir.
Please interrupt if I am not audible actually, because this online thing is a bit difficult sometimes because of the internet connectivity. So the nuclear family is the primary grouping, and husband and wife in Chenchu community actually they have equal rights and equal status, and as partners they both have a say in choice of locality uh, post marriage, whether with the husband or with the wife's group. Usually, what happens in patriarchal societies after the marriage, uh, uh, the bride and groom actually they stay with the groom's family, but then especially in patrilineal family. But then, when it comes to the Chenchu community, they actually they have actually absolute choice over especially the choice of locality post marriage. They have both of them have actually equal decision making choice. And but when it comes to authority and succession, they follow actually the patrilineal laws, and it is always passed through the male line. The properties or the resources, it is passed through, or assets always passed through the male line. And the Chenchus follow preferentially cross cousin marriage with anyone from the mother's clan, especially the mother's brother's daughter, whom we usually call as mama. And it is also prominent in several other parts of the mainlands. In Odisha, if you go to, there is a district called Barampur district. There actually the first preference is given to usually a daughter's son or brother's daughter, and the maternal uncle is therefore often referred as father-in-law in anticipation of the marital bond, because before the marriage, the especially the sister side or sister son, they start calling uh, the maternal uncle as father-in-law. And arranged marriages are mostly prevalent, and with the prior approval of the bride and groom. And but it shows, it also reflects, as we discussed earlier, it also reflects how women have equal rights in Chincho society, especially in the case of choice of a life partner. And when it comes to freedom and independence, the noted anthropologist Hammondorf notes that though the choice of the life partner is greatly valued and respected, when it comes to separation, uh, it is, though it is, very easy, it is not it is very easy, and it is when both the parties are in consonance with the separation, there is always actually restriction, over higher restriction over women. And after divorce, after separation, women are not allowed for remarriage. And post divorce, an individual has the choice to live with whoever he or she choose. But if the wife leaves the husband, then she starts her family have to compensate for the expense incurred at the time of marriage. And when it comes to the divorced woman, as I said, it is not allowed to remarry. And but however, she can live with a man of her choice without any legal sanction. And when it comes to the political organization among the Chenchus, it is marked by the institution of the elder man. Most of the, if you read Elwin, or you read Hamendrov, even in case of northeastern tribes, you go Apatanis, and if you go others, you will find out a concept called gaon budha, gaon budha, or the village elder man. And similarly, in case of Chenchus, the institution, village institution, is mostly marked by or dominated by the elder man. And under this institution, the traditional leader, known as in Andhra, called as pedomancy, represent the community to outsider during disputes and also helps solemnize marriages. And as a community head, the office of the pedomancy is neither strong nor too rigid. The office is hereditary, but the rule may be changed in case a suitable elder member is elected unanimously. And the Chenchu worship of a powerful goddess who is supposed to have control over food and game in the forest, known as Garila Marisama. And Hamindrov notes that they also worship a sky god known as Bhagavan, who is assumed to have power over life and death. There is no prevalent idea of reincarnation of karma and dharma as found in Hindu philosophy. Instead, the concept of life force or Jeev is more prevalent, with the idea that one death God takes away this life force only to return in later. And the Chenchus traditionally practice burial of the dead, and the other popular deities include Bhairava, uh, the local god, who is offered small, mm, uh, you know, offerings as oblations, and there is an absence of religious festivals or elaborate rituals. And if we see, economically, the Chenchus lead a hand to mouth existence and are entirely dependent upon nature for subsistence. And uh, hunting gathering, as I mentioned in the beginning, hunting gathering is a very what to say, communal exercise. The entire community actually they engage themselves in hunting activities. And apart from vegetables, fruits, uh, or hunting of squirrels, black monkey, we using the traditional primitive level of weaponry. They also use extensively honey for their diet, uh, and they are extremely adept to cultivating honey. And of late, actually, if we see, the Chenchus have begun to domesticate animals as well, beginning with the dogs. They take on hunting expeditions to cattle such as cow, buffalo, and goat. However, most of the cattle are sold off due to extreme economic vulnerability. And the next tribal community about which we are going to discuss is about the Gonds. And if you see, as per 2011 census, Gonds were uh, around 1 crore 32 lakh 56,000, and majority them are found in the state of Madhya Pradesh. This is the all India figure along with Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra. In the latter two states, especially Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra, if you see, they are known as Rajgons or Koitur in the Gondi dialect. Gondi dialect basically means the dialect of Gond community, the language they speak actually. In Andhra Pradesh, they are found in the district of Adilabad with some spillover from the nearby district of Bastar in Madhya Pradesh. To Hamindrov, the Gond population here is too by no means uniform. It is identified as being uh, of the following types: uh, Hilmarias, Dandami or Bisonhormarias, then Murias, Koyas. These are different types of gonds. And if you see the Bastar in Madhya Pradesh region, where actually most of the gonds they stay, Bastar region is quite famous. You must have come across the work of Alpa Saha and the Night March. Her book name is The Night March, and Nandini Sundar's work on the Burning Bastar, uh, which actually acquired the national attention, especially in the past few years because of uh, Maoist and Naxalite extremism. And if you see the hill Marias, Dandami or Bison Horn Marias, then Murias, Koyas, they are different types of gonds. And historically, the existence of gonds has been recorded since the Mughal times, when many of the village chieftains or village heads among the Rajgons made their presence felt in wars or conflict with the Mughals. This people, especially the young adults, those who participated in the war with the Mughals, conflict with the Mughals or Rajputs, they actually became prominence, and the Gond community acquired prominence because of their warfare skill. And the social organization is marked by both vertical and horizontal stratification. Uh, though the importance of hereditary ranks has declined with the decline of uh, the existing system of management, the exogamous patrilineal groups still exercise much influence among the Gonds. And the social structure is based on the predominance of four pharatres or the tribal subdivisions, which are further divided into clans. And the each individual Gond clan is characterized by lineage or pardhans, bards or chronicles. The surprise thing is that neither the pradhans nor the bards or chronicles are Gonds, but they do shoulder the responsibility of being the guardians of Gond culture and ritual. So, for instance, the pradhan is in charge of Gond tradition, and the bards or totis act as the musician and storyteller of Gond folk tales and myth. The surprising thing is those who are actually, usually the Gond clan actually it is characterized by the lineage of Pradhans. But then the surprising thing is the Pradhan himself or the lineage of that particular group is none of them are from Gond community. Then we'll discuss about Konda Reddys. The Konda Reddys, if you see, uh, the Konda Reddys, basically known as also known as hill Reddys, they reside in the forest region flanking the Godavari River, exactly where it breaks through into the eastern Ghats. And as I mentioned earlier, actually, how a particular community they spread over to multiple states. The Kondaredis are found in Andhra Pradesh. They also the some of them also found in Odisha's Koraput district. And Kondaredis are a remnant of tribal aboriginal groups that still follow the traditional method of slash and burn agriculture. Racially, there are strains of the Vedoid group and other more progressive groups. Their principal dialect remains Telugu, even though they distinguish themselves from the majority of the Andhra caste. In that sense, the Konda Reddys are different from the majority caste Reddys in Andhra Pradesh, who are both numerically and politically very powerful. Konda Reddys. And they live in small, close, knit communities. They are usually multi ethnic villages with little social stratification. And they primarily oriented towards subsistence oriented economic production. And in search of isolation, the Kondaredis have been forced to go deeper into the forest. It was noticed that many of the studies, if you see a study conducted by T. Mumidi, Tanuja Mumidi, which in which actually she extensively discussed about how the Konda Reddy, she extensively discussed about their cultivation and their lifestyle and their settlement. She extensively discussed how actually time to time actually they shift their settlement to avoid all contact with non-tribals who actually exploit them. And Uh, the tribe is largely endogamous, and any union with member of lower caste such as Valmikis or Kamars may lead to excommunication. However, marriages with clean Hindu castes such as Kapus, Bhagatas, who also claim to be tribals, and Jangam, a caste that perform death ritual among the Reddys, are tolerated. But if you see the marriage arrangement, the children belong to father's community. Usually, they uh, are preferred, and intra-clan marriages are not uh, tolerated. Often, the couple is levied a fine for entering into what is clearly identified as incestuous relationship or incest, what we call as incest taboo, the relationship which is prohibited. And interestingly, of late, couples in such unions are allowed to live together after they have paid the fine. And Hammondorf notes that this is a sign of the clan losing its importance as an important exogamous marriage unit. And uh, the Kondaredis are primarily animist and they worship many deities. The principal deity is the Earth Mother, who is propitiated especially during the time of festival, which are largely communal affair. The mother goddesses participated with animal sacrifices for the betterment of the community, and the other spirits and supernatural entities are treated with suspicion and caution by the Kondaredis. The only way to contact such spirit is through a summons or magicians. And if you see, um, mm, the Konda Devata or hill deities, spirits who inhabit forest and mountain uh, tops, they are often actually approached to pacify or to make that or to establish the contact with the spirit. And most of the festivals are celebrated keeping in mind the harvest cycle. And there is mango harvest festival called Mamidi Pandaga, another for the goddess of the earth called Bhudevi Pandaga, and for the rains that is Kappa Pandaga. The forest gods it is Adeni Rajula Pandaga. And besides the or apart from the above discussed patterns, way of worshiping, they also worship their ancestors, and it remains important for the Kondaredis. And economically, as we already discussed, Kondaredis follow a sash and bone cultivation with the help of an axe called Podu. Podu cultivation is very, if you simply Google it, you will get to know that how they actually do. Usually, actually, they burn a part of the forest and they sow crops like millets, maize, pulses, vegetables, uh, which actually, especially during before the monsoon sets in, and they cultivate. And the interface of tribe, now actually we'll discuss about the interface of tribes with the government. Basically, if we see, mm uh, the government tried to to time actually, if you see, after the plan development policies were implemented, if you go back to the post independence era, especially after 1947, the major objective of the government of India was to integrate uh, the tribal society with the mainstream society. And for that actually, various steps were taken. And uh, especially to introduce school education, and to uh, expand the economic development, mainstream economic development to the tribal areas. Different actually schemes were introduced, and especially in case of Andhra Pradesh in 1943, even just before independence, a scheme was started for the training of gone teachers along with the establishment of special schools for them. And the Tribal Area Regulation Act, which was enacted in 1946, empowered the government to make expedite the establishment of administrative machinery. And subsequently, if you see, subsequently many such amendments were made to bring the tribals or the tribal societies to the main fold of development. And the establishment of panchayat was also one of the important step towards creating a sense of self governance. And as you can see actually now, that panchayat or rural governance especially, or the village panchayat, emerged as a kind of most important and powerful body, governance body in tribal areas. And if the recent decision, if you can see, in case of this Niyamgiri in Odisha, and also the Samata decision in case of Andhra Pradesh, the major decisions are actually the court actually allowed the village council to decide the well-being of the tribals, whether that particular industry or the particular mines which the government was proposing to establish would bring any benefit to the local inhabitants, that led to the decision of the village council. So it shows that how actually the panchayat system or the governance system through which the government of India tried to integrate the tribal communities or societies with the mainland societies brought change. And time to time the legal machineries or the legal institutions uh, made that particular made that partner policies, reinforce those policies to let the tribals take their own decision. Similarly, if you see Andhra Pradesh scheduled areas land transfer regulation was also introduced in 1959. Uh, to create restriction over the land transfer among the tribals, though of course latter uh, that critics, they criticize the government by leaving number of loopholes which help the non-tribals to transfer the land to their names. And as we see, the amendment of the land transfer regulation of 1959 and subsequently in the year 1970 and 1971 made provisions for the safeguarding of tribal land from land grabbers. And the first 5 year plan 1959, if you see, they were actually concentrated, the developmental measures were only focused on the mainland areas, and they overlooked the predominantly tribal district of Andhra Pradesh. And now we'll discuss about the tribal development problems and prospects. Problems actually, the major problem actually what the tribals encounter is about resource ownership and uh, um, transfer. And as there are number of studies. If you see, Michael Levin actually one of the important contributors to the land grabbing debate in case of India, where actually he published an article called "The Land Wars in the 21st Century," where it elaboratively discussed about how land transfer is made, or uh, the land disposition were made in tribal areas. Tribal inhabitants were disposed from their own land, which is also called as their only means of production. Tribals were always actually since the Britishers uh, came to rule India. From there onwards, actually, tribal land alienation and disposition became the frequent affair of the Indian state. And how actually the land alienation takes place. Usually, there are two different ways through which land disposition takes place, and tribals were alienated from their agricultural land. Thing was first, the non-tribals, they got married to the tribal women, and wherever actually there is matrilineal uh, uh, society, they if the they after getting marriage, gradually the land got transferred to the next generation non-tribals, because once a tribal women marries to a non-tribal man, and the land gets transferred into the names of the next generation. It is now owned by the non-tribals. And the other way is the money lenders, by giving credit to the tribals during the time of their economic crisis, by charging exorbitant rate of interest. They keep land on mortgage for a quite longer time, and wherever they see actually the existing loopholes or weakness of the existing land transfer law, or any modifications or amendments, immediately actually they uh, uh, using that opportunity, uh, they emerge successful in transferring the tribal lands into their names. And similarly, other way of other reasons for which the tribals they got displaced from their own land, like mining activities in scheduled areas, then where actually large number of tribals got displaced. However, in the recent years, if you see the number of tribal movements, especially and litigations filed in the court of law to bring, to bring or to um, you know, uh, stop the or to restrict the land expropriation or land um, accumulation by the non-tribals emerged successful. And the classic example, as I said, the Samata decision, which brought actually, which was a kind of eye-opening court verdict delivered by Supreme Court of India in case of the tribal land rights in Andhra Pradesh, is one of the classic example. And you can also see the example of Niyamgiri, Dongriakant case, where actually the the village council was, the Supreme Court made the judgment giving absolute power to the village council to decide whether they want to uh, go for the establishment of the industry or not. So this is what the about the tribes of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Now we'll discuss about the tribes of Karnataka. I'll take 10 minutes break. So you can also take 10 minutes break. We'll meet after 10 minutes. One can reply. Am I audible to everyone?
So, okay, sir.
Okay,
We'll, we'll meet after 8 to 10 minutes. Okay.
Okay, okay, sir.
So we'll resume now. So now we'll discuss about uh, the tribes of Karnataka. Mm, as many of us know, geographically, Karnataka is situated in the center tableland of the Deccan Plateau. And from anthropological point of view, if you see, Karnataka was considered as the anthropological museum where actually the people of different racial traits are seen. Apart from the Dravidian and Indo-Aryans, the land has notable strengths of other categories, other category of tribes, and uh, as we discussed in the beginning, uh, the varied cultural traits of different tribal communities uh, attracted number of anthropologists, sociocultural anthropologists to carry uh, numerous studies in that particular state. And if you see, Karnataka's tribal population, as we discussed in case of Andhra Pradesh, it was 6% of the national population. In case of Karnataka, the tribal population constitutes 7% of the India's tribal population. And according to 2011 census, there are around 101 scheduled castes and 50 scheduled tribes are existing residing in Karnataka. And vast majority of the people of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes live in rural areas. And if you see Karnataka has a very rich history. If you explore the studies, especially on tribes of Karnataka, it has a very rich history. Those who have even partial knowledge of sociology, Indian sociology, they must be familiar with the name called M.N. Srinivas. How many of you are familiar with the name of M.N. Srinivas? Anybody? Swati, Shailesh, Hussein, no one. Cinderella, mm, at least respond yes or no. Nobody is familiar with the name M.N. Srinivas? No. Okay. So, M.N. Srinivas is considered as the father of modern founding father of Indian sociology. And if you see his studies on the religion and society among the Kurgs of South India. The Kurg is a place from Karnataka, and he studied extensively the local inhabitants. There are a number of studies. If you see the dominant caste in Rampura and other studies, you'll find out followed by M.N. Srinivas, number of sociocultural anthropologists actually joined Srinivas in studying different tribal communities of Karnataka, and the tribal society of Karnataka has acquired immense attention at the national level. If you see the Nilgiris, the uh, Kurgs, the tribals residing in the local areas of Kurgs and the peripheral nearby areas of Kurgs. Gradually the tribals which were actually staying isolated from the mainstream society, and they were out of contact of the mainstream society. Gradually, if you see, they became actually the subject of a museum. If you see, if today if you visit actually uh, Coorg in Karnataka, and or you can say in Tamil Nadu also, if you visit Uti or some other places like Nilgiris, you will see actually how they were actually portrayed. In today, actually, they are once the community which was considered as a kind of isolated community, and barely actually any of the mainland, barely actually they had contact with the mainland population. Now they are actually so much connected with the mainland population, and they have emerged as a kind of part of tourism development, and the state is earning a significant amount from the expansion of tourism in tribal pockets. Those who are I don't know actually how many of you watch movies. There is a movie by Johnny Depp called The Lone Ranger. You must have seen actually that movie. And there are several other kinds of movies as well actually of similar genre, but it is one of the classic example where actually tribals, they were actually made the subject of a kind of museums. And so in case of a particular tribe which we'll be discussing, the Toda tribe of Karnataka. The Toda tribe, basically they are popular because of the beautiful house they construct, they reside, the nice costumes, and the enriched language in their because of their enriched language and their culture. And if we see, mm, the Toda tribal community has established their settlement and lives very cordially with other tribal communities like the Badaga, Kota, and Kurumba. And uh, the Todas are seen as a pastoral tribe who herd buffaloes and that roam the Nilgiri hills. And their way of living is simple, with their flowing beards, long hair, fine bodies, and tall sticks in the hand. They resemble the prophets of the Old Testament. And as far as the language is concerned, the Toda tribal community converse with each other in the language of the same name, the Toda language, which belongs to the Dravidian language family, with complex and intricate phonology. Mm, and the Toda tribal community is one of the original tribal communities who had resided in the rock provinces of Nilgiris. Thus, if you see, for a quite longer time, the tribal community had led a life of a complete isolation and alienation. And around 1823, the contemporary administration of Coimbatore uh, liked the place of the residence of this Toda tribal community and finally brought it from them. And he also formed a town at that particular region, which is popularly known as uh, Udaga Mandalam. And the rapid communication with the modern world brought about several changes in the lifestyle of the community. And if you see the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, a UNESCO famed international biosphere reserve. And like most of the tribal communities of Indian subcontinent, the Toda tribal community has got huge inclination towards religion and spiritualism. And the Toda community worship their dairy buffaloes with lots of veneration. Worshipping animals is a is very common. You see, in northeastern states, there are a number of actually tribes those who worship animals the way actually told us they worship buffaloes. They also worship mithun. Mithun is a very what to say, it looks like a yak, but then they worship it. And similarly, the Toda tribes, they actually worship dairy buffaloes with lots of veneration. And they have plethora number of gods and goddesses. And uh, Kona Shastra is the sole religious occasion which deals with yearly sacrifice of a male buffalo calf. And the society of Toda tribe is very well knit from the beginning. Actually, we discussed how actually they maintain a very cordial relationship with other tribes. Child marriage is dominant, it is prevalent. Mates are normally acquired through negotiation, otherwise, marriage by elopement is permissible, but marriage by capture is no more practiced. Bride price is paid both in cash and kind. Residence after marriage is patrilocal. You remember actually when we discussed about the tribals of Andhra Pradesh, actually how uh, the marriage residence after marriage was actually very consensual, and it can be both male side and matrilocal side or patrilocal side. But in case of Todas, it is patrilocal. Divorce is permissible, but uh, contrast to or opposite to the tribes of Andhra Pradesh, the divorce or the remarriage of widow or widower is permissible. And mostly the Toda women take part in agricultural operations, tending, cattle, collect fuel, and fetch potable water. They participate in economic activities and observe rituals. And a pregnant woman is separated from the household as it entails pollution. And as far as the occupation of the tribal Toda community is concerned, maximum of these Toda tribes have taken up occupations of cattle rearing and dairy farming. And most of the members are huge herd of buffaloes. And this Toda tribal community sustains their livelihood from milk products. Toda tribes have also developed expertise in silver making. This is a very, as we can see, if you remember, recently actually we discussed actually how uh, they were integrated. The British officials, they brought the Todas and their people from their community to the urban pockets, and they tried to integrate the Toda community with the mainstream society long back in comparison to other tribal communities. So that was the reason actually they have started earning their livelihood from milk products. They have also developed expertise in silver making. Even though traditionally they are pastoral, but latter about a quarter of them have taken up commercial agriculture, particularly the cultivation of vegetables such as potato and cabbage. And now if you visit the localities of especially in Nilgiris region, you will find out actually Todas cultivating plenty of vegetables which are popular or most demanding in the mainland areas, especially if you see carrot, cabbage, and uh, their attitude towards formal education is positive, and their literacy rate is improving. And modern allopathic medicine with regard to the healthcare, uh, though they use simultaneously the uh, indigenous medicinal practices, but then they have accepted the allopathic medicine, and they were also not reluctant in sending their children to schools, and their acceptance or their enthusiasm towards acquiring education and availing the modern facilities is tremendous when we compare Todas with other tribes. And with regard to their economic position, actually, they are too actually indulge into money lending practices, and they are always actually indebted to the money lenders, local money lenders. And uh, with regard to the school education and other schemes, an interesting trend was noticed among the traders. They actually very quickly accepted the schemes associated with integrated child development program and public distribution system. Then there was another tribe called Jenukuruba. Jenukuruba tribe of Karnataka are original residents of the forest region of the Western Ghats. And if you see, uh, they are concentrated in the Kodagu and Kodagu and Mysuru district of Karnataka. They speak. Basically, the meaning of Jenukuruba is Jenu means honey, and Kuruba stands for caste. Therefore, their name suggests that these Jenukuruba tribes have adopted their profession as honey gathering tribes. And their speech, basically locally called Jenu Nudi, it's a dialect of Kannada. Uh, and anthropologists have traced a rich history of the origin of this Janukuruva tribal community of Karnataka. And according to them, after the downfall of the Pallava dynasty, several Janukuruva tribes have taken refuge in different places of the southern state of Indian subcontinent. And the Janukuruva tribes have taken up the occupations like small land employers and cultivators. And if you see, their marriage practices, basically adult marriage is preferred and alliances are generally made through negotiation. The people are monogamous. Divorce can be sought by either spouse, and the remarriage of widow and widows and male or female divorcees is permissible. Women participate in all economic activities and contribute to the family income considerably, but they are not allowed to participate in the worship of deities. And if we see, the lifestyle of Janukuruba is almost similar to uh, the tribes, especially when we discussed about Konda Reddys and others in case of Andhra Pradesh. They are typically nomad and adapting to various occupations like conventional food collectors, shifting cultivators, and these particular tribe also carry on cultivation as a supplementary profession. Instead of plowing the field, these tribes rob the surface with sort of bamboo spear and they cultivate. Uh, their housing style also, it is one of the excellent kind of housing style, as excellent as the Todas. And now we'll discuss about the Bedar. The Vedar tribe of Karnataka are also known as Beda or Berat, Boya or Bendar, and are divided in six social groups. Bedar tribe belongs to the famous Dravidian language family group, and Bedar tribal community can be found in several places of Karnataka. The word Vedas has the etymological significance. The word has been derived from the word Bed or Bedaru, which signifies a hunter. The ancestors of Bedar tribe were the Pindaris. However, some claim that their ancestors were Tirol Kunbis. The origin of the name of the tribe is not properly known. The ancestors were Tirol Kunbis. You must know that Karnataka shares border with Maharashtra, and Kunbis. There are a number of communities, especially Kunbi communities, are residing in Maharashtra. And the origin of the name of this tribe is not properly known, though actually the anthropologists they anticipate this. And the term Bedar is without fear, basically. And the societal structure of the Bedar tribal community is quite significant. The Bedar tribes have six social groups. Bedar tribes have taken up occupations like farming, laborers, security guards, workers, stone cutters, drovers, etc. Apart from these occupations, the Bedar tribes are also engaged in occupations of several servants, traders, messengers, police, and soldiers. This particular tribal community is of a mixed nature. There are three subdivisions. One is the Maratha, one is Kande, and the other was Telugu Bedars. They have their indigenous customs and tradition. They are meat. They eat meat, and they also drink liquor. Just like many of the tribal communities, the institution of marriage is given prime importance in Bedar tribal communities. The proposal of marriage usually comes from the parents of the bridegroom. Though there are, the child marriage is prevalent in Bedar society, the bride does not reside with her husband till her puberty. Marriage within the subgroup of Bedar community is not allowed. Widow remarriage and divorce are permitted among the Bedar tribes. And in the matter of administration, especially in case of dispute matters, the Bedar tribe takes the help of village headman, popularly called as Kattimani. And the cultural exuberance of the whole Bedar tribal community is nicely depicted in all its aspects, like festivals, whether it is language, jewelries. The people of Bedar community they communicate in Bedar language, and today, if we see the Bedar tribes use diverse languages like Kannada language and Marathi language. And as you know, in the beginning, we discussed actually the Kunbi Bedars. Since Karnataka shares border with Maharashtra, they also speak Marathi language. And jewelries are an integral part of the costume of the Bedar tribal community. Both Bedar males and females are very fond of wearing ornaments that are made up mainly from silver and gold. And uh, tattooing is also very special custom of Bedar tribes. The male and female of the Bedar tribe do tattooing on several parts like forehead, corners of the eyes, and forearms. Rites, rituals, and customs are part of the Bedar tribal community. Basavis are a group of Bedar tribal female who reside inside the temple premises. Then, very briefly, we'll discuss about Haki Piki. This the name of this community is derived from the traditional occupation of bird catching. Haki in Kannada means a bird, while Piki is an eco formation. The title are Singh, Rao, and Appa. The community is distributed in Mysore, Kolar, Shimoga, and Hassan. Uh, they are conversant with Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Hindi. They speak mixed dialect, and but then they use Kannada script. Hakki-Pikki tribe of Karnataka are Kshatriyas or warrior tribal community and set their community after defeat of the Mughals. They are semi-nomadic and tribes are, they have four divisions, clan divisions, namely Gujaratis, Kaliwala, Mewara, and Panwara. And Gujaratis are considered as being the highest status clan, where Mewara is considered as the lowest one. Adult marriage is the rule among them, and marriage are mostly arranged by the negotiation through instance of marriage through exchange, and elopement are also reported. Monogamy is the common form, and some cases of polygyny have been reported. During marriage, bride price is paid in cash, and after marriage, patrilocal residence is followed. As in case of other tribes, we see divorce may be granted on account of adultery or maladjustment. The remarriage of widows and divorce is permissible. And the traditional occupation of Hakipiki's tribe is trapping of birds and animals and the collection of forest produce. Many of them lead a nomadic life and move from one village to another, selling cosmetic used by the women folk. In order to sustain their livelihood, these tribal communities have taken up occupations like hunting. And if we see nowadays, very few settled cultivators are earning a livelihood as agricultural laborers. Some of them are employed in as peons and clerks in government establishment. This particular tribe do not favor formal education for their children. You see how Todas actually in the previous year we discussed previous section we discussed Todas were very much favorable for the education of their children. But when it comes to this particular tribe, they are not very you know they are not favorable for their children education. And when it comes to female education, they are more rigid. And however, it is seen that only few boys have studied up to the secondary level and few girls up to the primary level. Children who attend schools continue their studies due to their nomadic way of life of the community. They make use of both traditional and modern medicines. Uh, then the last one, the Solaga tribe. Very briefly, will conclude. In Karnataka, they use the term Gauda, meaning a headman, as their title. And in this state, they are mainly distributed in the hilly parts of Mysore district. The language they speak is a dialect of Dravidian language, Kannada, but the Urali Sholiga division speaks the Sholiga language for intra-group communication, and Kannada for intergroup communication. They use actually mixed dialect. The Sholiga language actually for communication between intra-group communication when it comes to communicating with their community members, and they also use Kannada when it comes to intergroup communication or while communicating with the outsiders. They use Kannada script especially while writing. And there are some people who have also given alternative names to this language called Solankayans, Soliga, Solaga, Kadu Soligar, Soligar, Solanayaka. And as per the provision of the Indian constitutions, Sholaga tribal community is one of the scheduled tribes, and the Sholaga tribal community has a belonging to the Kannada group. And adult marriage is usually normally arranged, and alliances are based on the alliances, preferred alliances. Divorce is sanctioned on the grounds of adultery and maladjustment. The remarriage of widow and widows are permitted. The women of this community fetch water, collect fuel, tubers, take part in social and ritual activities, and contribute to the family income. The dead are buried and ancestors are worshipped annually. The traditional occupation of this community is shifting cultivation and the collection of minor forest produce. Now they have taken forest and agricultural laborer. A few of them are landowning cultivators. As we see, agriculture and farming are considered as the major occupation of the Solara tribal community. And quite a number of Solara tribals collect various products from the forest area. And religion, mostly Hinduism is the major religion. The Soliga worship community deities like Karyas, Kyatta Devru, Jagadesh Swami, and others. So, uh, these are the three major tribes of Karnataka. And as I said, in case of the tribes of Karnataka, they are more integrated with the mainstream society in comparison to the tribes of Andhra Pradesh. And because of the early integration of this tribal society with the mainland societies, because of colonial intervention, and as you can see, in case of Andhra Pradesh, it is the tribals are more isolated. Uh, and in tomorrow's class, we'll discuss about in three more states, the tribes of three more states. Uh, and if you have any doubt, actually, you can raise the question, or else we'll conclude the class. And tomorrow's class will be you must have got the email. It is rescheduled to 3 p.m. We'll be having class from 3 to 5 p.m. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sir. We have got the emails.
You have got the email. So we'll be having class tomorrow at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So shall we conclude now? Or if you have any doubt, you please you can ask me. If not, then we'll conclude. Okay. So thank you so much for patient hearing. We'll meet tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.